doing artisanal small-scale mining, that's the ASM, and terrorist activities in Western Cape and from Nigeria to Niger. Small-scale miners face a profound challenge. They need buyers for their products in order to make ends meet, but are shut out like the legal mineral trade by governments that refuse to acknowledge their work. And as such, terrorist groups, meanwhile, give them protection and pay. So going back to the slides, funding the operation. So they're for and tackling issues around this potpourri of problems, comprising of economic inequality, mineral ownership, and national security. A number of international organizations like the International Crisis Group and the Organization for Economic Cooperation, that's OECD, have taken it upon themselves to offer solutions to countries affected by mining-funded terrorism. Now, I am not in any way against what these organizations are doing, but what I'm saying is we as the local people that are in the field, that have one-on-one everyday interface with this people, should proffer solutions to tackling these problems. Why am I saying this? Because most of these international organizations are too academic in what they try to do. That is the reason why I've co-founded Mine Depot, to solve these issues. Anybody that cares to find out what Mine Depot does can reach out to me and I'll share that with you. Anyway, going back to this slide, it has been well documented, and we have also uncovered this on our own investigation, that terrorist groups, in particular in West Africa, are increasingly interested in controlling areas of production of gold and 3 TG minerals. What is 3 TG minerals? 3 TG minerals means tin, tantalum, tungsten, and gold. That is what we call 3 TG minerals. These are mostly ASM, but terrorist groups are also active in regions and areas where large-scale operations are active. So it doesn't mean also that they are only active where you have ASM activities. No. A lot of big mining concerns are operating in Guinea, they're operating in DR Congo, and all of these areas. But you can see what is happening in DR Congo on the fringes of the Kivu region and all of that, where rogue governments from Uganda and Rwanda fund terrorist groups to cause mayhem such that they can benefit from the wealth of the Congo. But that's a topic for another day. So I will definitely say that this is something that we are witnessing. Now, in recent years, a number of investigations have highlighted this relationship. For instance, the Human Angle report that was, I think it was in 2021 in Nigeria, the Zamfara region in northwestern Nigeria. The Zamfara state government banned, in conjunction with the federal government of Nigeria, banned all mining activities in Zamfara because Zamfara is, rich in gold. But how did the ASM respond to it? They responded by selling their products directly to terror groups. And this terror group, in return, were protecting them, from government actors and all of that. And they were making money. So government ban did not stop the activity of the ASMs, So when we talk about terrorist groups in West Africa, it's also important to keep in mind that these are often opportunistic terrorists, opportunistic in like the instance we talked about Zamfara in the last slide. Criminal groups that tend to organize terrorist actions when it's timely and when it suits them. This is highlighted, like I said, by this opportunistic nature of terrorist activities, exemplified by the activities in Zamfara state in northwestern Nigeria. And this is continuing, and it has even snowballed into where bandits have taken over a large swathe of northwestern Nigeria, and locals have to pay, a fee for them to be able to have peace and, in their communities. Anyway, my point here is to underline that criminal organizations have been targeting the production and trade of minerals, in particular gold, for a while. So it's quite natural that terrorist groups are also interested in that. Now, the favored mineral of terrorists, okay, is, of course, gold. Why is that? Because gold is an ideal commodity. A bar of gold weighing 1 kilogram is worth around $51,000 or thereabout, and it's easy to smuggle across borders. Furthermore, its value is immediately apparent to those interested in trading. Now, recent discoveries of gold deposits in West Africa, like I mentioned earlier on, have only intensified the issue of terrorism. A report from the International Crisis Group found that the Sahel, a region of desert that stretches across Burkina Faso, if any of you knows the geography around there, Mali and Niger, the discovery of a new gold vein in 2012 caused these countries, like I mentioned earlier on, gold production to soar to new heights. So Mali, Burkina Faso produced more than 130 tons of gold in 2019, enough to place them 4th and 5th out of all African countries. And these countries were not players before now. But the problem is the weak governance systems in these countries, and this resource base has, become a problem funding terrorism and terrorism activities. Now, going back to the next slide now, the struggle for formalization. Now, the widespread and often entrenched nature of this relationship can make breaking these bonds difficult. Considering Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, again, unregulated gold mining accounts for up to 4.5 billion of value per year across these three countries. And more than 2 million people are directly employed in ASM activities. So what does that tell us? That is a very, very huge economic base that cannot be allowed to go into the hands of terrorist players. So the combination of intense terrorist interest in gold and the widespread nature of ASM gold mining in West Africa and Central Africa has created the perfect condition for linkages between terror groups and unregulated mining to flourish. Now, challenging these relationships would be as much about changing these conditions as tackling individual terror groups or mines. Now, what are the solutions of all of these things that we've talked about? And mitigation. Ideally, formalization and legalization certainly are mitigation strategies. But legalizing ASM certainly offers benefits on paper, including the protection of mines by government forces and allowing small-scale miners to access as a much wider range of customers, all of which is done above board. However, the struggle for recognition and formalization has dragged on for decades in much of the world, with the cost of securing mining licenses and the need for effective safety and environmental policies, making formalization a costly and logistically impossible proposition for many small-scale miners. Okay, let me talk about this slide a little bit. Ghana is one jurisdiction that has done a lot in trying to formalize additional miners, especially the ASM sector. And Ghana has recorded a lot of gains in terms of putting together cooperatives in ASGM, that's artisanal small gold mines, and all of that. In fact, Ghana has a specialized agency that buys off gold from ASM or operators, and in turn it gives them fair pricing and all of that. But with all of that, it has not in any way dented the issues around additional miners, because government alone cannot do this. So it's a continuous struggle. So every hand must be on deck. Women in mining, for instance, if they have a Ghana chapter, whatever they can do, to help, formalize small-scale and artisanal miners will go a long way in incentivizing small-scale miners to have linkages with terror groups by providing them fair pricing and a chain of custody for their produce. Now, transitioning to legal mining. So some of Africa's largest mining jurisdictions, such as South Africa, have set up task forces and bodies to help those involved in ASM, transition to legal mining. These have met with limited success, like I said earlier on, like what Ghana has done. I was just trying to, limit myself to the West African region, which is in line with the theme of today's class. And often they run into the problem that underlines many of these challenges. So that shows you the close bond between ASM and terrorism. Now, the other option is to close the trading opportunities as much as possible for terrorist groups. So, well, this is a solution driven by economics that would help eliminate the need for miners to sell products to terrorist groups and cause this relationship to evaporate, like what Ghana did, with the agency that buys off gold from the ASM, and also by offering license to ASM cooperatives to mine gold legally. I try to go back to Ghana because that is sure that they're not sourcing from mines controlled by those terrorist groups, and challenging that is very difficult for a number of reasons. It's not easy to just buy diamonds because there's a clear chain of custody and a clear provenance. So you can tell where the diamond is mined and all of that. So that is one thing the ASM sector should copy as much as possible. So as anyone can imagine, buyers that are interested
Your line is freezing, so your lecture is becoming
to handle and carry around. Then of course, yeah, hello.
Your line is becoming disjointed. It's freezing. We are not hearing you again.
Oh, okay. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Great. So should I go back to the last slide, or I should just continue?
Go back to the last slide.
Okay, I said the only other option is to close the trading opportunities as much as possible for terrorist groups. This is a solution driven by economics that will help eliminate the need for miners to sell their products to terrorist groups and cause this, so when you do that, you can cause these relationships between ASM operators and the terrorist group to evaporate. Now, how do you do this? International buyers abroad should be conducting due diligence to make sure that they're not sourcing from mines controlled by these groups. So that way, you are effectively shutting out, that trade, that linkage between the ASM operators and the terrorist group, thereby effectively drying up their source of funding. So by creating buying centers by government and also formalizing these ASM groups, government can effectively, on the one hand, empower the ASM operators, and on the other hand, also, starve the terrorist groups from illicit funds. So, like I said, going back to the next slide, as anyone can imagine, buyers that are interested in gold will always be available, yes, whether government does anything or not, because gold is everybody's, thing. So they are buying it cheap, or because they don't have to fill any kind of paperwork, So, like I said, one thing that's certain is that trying to ban ASM will not work, has never worked, and will never work. So going back to my last point is for government to try and see how they can, empower the ASM operators by, intentionally formalizing their operations. How do you do that? By offering them licenses as cooperatives to work, and then establishing buying centers where you can buy their produce at a fair price, and of course, you can also know the chain of custody, a provenance of this, these products. You can know from what mine it came out, when did it come out, and who mined it, and all of that processes, but this is not the forum for that. Now, so need for due diligence. So, like I said earlier on in my speech, international bodies often take a big picture and academic approach to the problem of ASM and terrorism financing. Now, and this is always separated from specific legal and security situations in countries affected by terrorism and ASM. Now, like I said, there's a strong need to push for due diligence to be adopted by actors across the mining supply value chain. Value chains, by mining supply chain and the value chain. Now, what does this do? It helps in, like I said, establishing a provenance of any product that comes out of any mine. You can track and trace, and in tracking and tracing also, there'll be some kind of sanity in that chain. So, like I said, I founded an organization called Mine Depot, and we started working on gold, tin, tantalum, and tungsten. That's the 3 TG I mentioned earlier on in the earlier slide. And this has, also extended far beyond what we tried to do. So we've this slide is just meant to tell you what we've been doing in the space. We've had relationships, with very, very reputable international industry associations. For instance, we are forging a relationship with Banku Inc. That's a blockchain, platform that seeks to establish a provenance and a chain of custody for critical minerals and mine minerals from artisanal miners. And then there's also Marco, who's trying to do, very, very impressive work around the ASM, sector, also employing blockchain. And then the blended finance group, also, but just to name a few. So we're pushing for all mining jurisdictions within the the West African sub-region to turn this voluntary standard into legal obligations and industry requirements. And if this is done, if jurisdictions in Nigeria, Mali, Guinea, Senegal, and all of that voluntarily agree, to make these standards, industry requirements in their body of laws, I think will go a long way in solving this issue of mining and terrorism financing. So I'll talk a little bit about the framework now. So the Organization of Economic, OECD, that's in Europe, has established a framework. It's a 5-step framework, but for want of time, I cannot go into all of those 5 steps, but I'll just paraphrase a little bit so that then maybe further reading, other people can begin to look at that. Now, to encourage responsible sourcing at all levels of the mining supply chain. Now, this framework includes, but it's not restricted to, initiatives to identify, like I said, that's chain of custody, assess and minimize risk, and effectively communicate on all stages of the assessment process. And that's a move that in itself is an innovation, considering that many of the terrorist threats to ASM operations are underreported in the international media. So if the international media does not know that this threat exists, so these guys just go and walk under the radar, and they keep causing problems. But if if the world is alive to this problem and there's an X-ray on the problem, then we've, solved, the problem is half solved. So that's one of the approach that Mine Depot has adopted, and we're fully with the OECD on that. Now, high-risk areas. This is the last slide. So conflict-affected and other high-risk areas are characterized by institutional weakness, political instability, insecurity, armed conflict, widespread violence, or other risk of harm to people. What do I mean by this? It is very simple. If the state is weak, of course, non-state actors will come in. If the institutions are weak, of course, non-state actors will come in. If there's instability in any region where the region is well resourced, of course, non-state actors will take advantage of this. If there's conflict, same thing. So, like I said, we need to build institutions. In concluding, we need to build institutions. We need to build capacity, and we need to also understand that without all of this, terrorists and terrorism financing will continue to be a problem in our sub-region, and of course, a problem to the world at large. Thank you.
So thank you so very much, Mr. Omoy Abdul Majid, for that very insightful and detailed presentation. Thank you so much. I'm sure that our participants are itching to ask questions, but of course we'll take those questions after both sessions. So we'll be moving on to our next session immediately, which will be taken by Mercy Gadzama, Engineer Mercy Gadzama.
Mr. Bomoy, kindly mute your
okay, yeah, I'll mute now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, as I was saying, our second speaker is Engineer Mercy Gadzama, a current certified civil engineer who got a bachelor's in engineering from Bayero University, Kano, an MBA from Ahmadu Bello University, after which she joined the Nigerian Immigration Service in 2009 as an Assistant Superintendent of Immigration 2. Gadzama has since risen through the ranks and is presently a Chief Superintendent of the Immigration Service. She has carried out her duties with great commitment and commendation in the service, and even leading the team that supervised the prestigious Technology Building Command and Control Center at the service headquarters in Abuja. Gadzama became the facility manager of the building until her present appointment as a special advisor on special duties to the Comptroller General of Nigeria Immigration Service. As a key member of the NIS, Gadzama understands the terrorism challenge of the country, especially as it relates to border control and the illicit movement of arms, which have become largely proliferated. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like us to welcome Engineer Mercy Gadzama for her presentation. Thank you very much.
Good evening, all. I hope you all can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. All right. Good evening. My name is Engineer Mercy Gadzama, like you have introduced, and I'm speaking from the Comptroller General of Nigerian Immigration Service Office. I am speaking basically on border security, which is a very important topic in our nation completely generally. So I think let me share my screen to start with.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay.
We can do it from this end if you want that.
I don't know, have you started seeing my shared screen?
Not yet, but let's just do it from this end.
Okay, fine then, I think, so that we can kick things off.
Yes.
Okay, on behalf of my Comptroller General, Acting Comptroller of Nigerian Immigration Service, Chief Dr. Mrs. Wurala Caroline Adepoju, I bring you all greetings. First and foremost, our mission and vision in Nigerian Immigration Service, our mission most especially, is to strengthen the security and prosperity of Nigeria through proactive, effective, and efficient border security and migration management. So on curbing terrorism in the mining sector in Nigeria, our main goal is to secure the borders. And what are the ways to curb terrorism? This can include enhanced screening procedures for individuals entering mining areas, intelligence sharing with relevant security agencies, collaborating with mining companies to ensure compliance with security protocols. So on screening individuals entering mining areas, most especially our mining zones, such as those ones in Zamfara, which we also have a recent case in Kwara State, where some Chinese were caught. They came in on visa on arrival, and we do not issue visa on arrival to people who come to work in Nigeria. Usually you have to come on a work permit. But recently we got some Chinese, about 13 in Kwara State, who came in based on what they presented to the service. That is, they are here on a business, short business visit. But peradventure, they were caught mining. And well, investigation is still ongoing to ascertain how they got acclimatized into that society. So going forward, Nigerian immigration is seriously screening individuals on entering Nigeria and basically on our resources, going into our mining sites to get some of our resources. Intelligence sharing with relevant security agencies. We as Nigerian immigration, we cannot be only the sole security outfit that can be able to curb this terrorism. There has to be synergy both with us, both with custom, both with NS, CDC, the police. Everybody has to gather together and we have to synergize and share information. If probably security defense, they go on their surveillance and they see some Chinese. You know, Chinese, they all look alike. If you see one Chinese here, you will see him here tomorrow again. You will not even know that it's the same Chinese you saw. They all look alike. So we have to share information to make sure that we can be able to curb terrorism amongst us. And also collaborating with mining companies to ensure compliance with security protocols. Now that we have come into this women in mining in Nigeria, we're really going to collaborate and also visit some mining sites, you know, mining companies, and we want to see that, okay, and they are complying with our standards of migration, of people coming in, all their expatriates. Are they getting the right expatriate quotas, expatriate visas? Are they training people? Because what the law says, if you bring one expatriate, he's supposed to train as much as 20 Nigerians, so that we too can learn and they can go back, then our people can benefit from these trainings and we can continue doing the job ourselves. So steps to curbing terrorism. To effectively curb terrorism, several systems can be put in place. And some of the several systems are, like I said, intelligence and information sharing. I hope everybody is listening to me. Hello?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we can hear you.
Go on. Yeah.
Okay, like I said earlier on intelligence and information sharing. So establishing robust intelligence networks and fostering cooperation among local, regional, and international security agencies can help identify potential threats and track terrorist activities. We all know that the major challenge we have in Nigeria today is terrorism and border security. When you talk about terrorism, you must remember our borders. And that is our core mandate as Nigerian Immigration Service, to protect our borders. And to do that, we cannot do it all alone. We must do it in synergy, like I said, with so many military, paramilitary agencies. We must work together. We must share intelligence. We must share information to protect and secure the borders of Nigeria. Nigeria is not just for one person. Nigeria is for all of us. Nigeria is not just for us, but for people coming after us, our children and our children's children. Border control and immigration. Strengthening border control measures, implementing through screening procedures, and enhancing monitoring system can help identify and prevent the movement of individuals and unauthorized movement of minerals across borders. Presently, the Nigerian immigration has put in place what we call electronic border management. We have seen that manning the borders is not 100% by human control. So right now, this is the latest project Nigerian Immigration Service is working on, e-border management, where we are going to use, we have instruments like e-pass, we have instruments like drones that we monitor our borders, because Nigerian border, what is the Nigerian border? Who can actually say, this is our border, this is how many, even if we tie our hands together, we cannot border Nigeria. So by using electronic means, I think we are getting there and we can be able to strengthen our border control measures. Law enforcement and security operations. Developing specialized counterterrorism units within law enforcement agencies, equipping them with necessary training and resources, and conducting proactive security operations can disrupt terrorist networks and prevent attacks. So by the time we all law enforcement come together, we equip ourselves, we develop specialized counterterrorism units, we can be able to protect our borders. And also, when it comes to mining, even your mining sites, will be able to protect those sites, make them more secure, that people can work with no fear of any harassment. Because what is terrorism in general? Terrorism is when there's unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians. And who are the civilians? Me, you, all of us are civilians when we look at it from the ground facts. Visa facilitation. The Immigration Service can streamline visa processes for foreign investors and professionals interested in the mining sector. This would encourage investment and knowledge transfer, ultimately benefiting the mining industry. This is one of our missions as well, which is to facilitate your visas. Like in the mining industry, I am very aware that you will have collaboration with so many miners from all over the world. We can issue them visas. We want prospective business people to come to Nigeria. Legal means, on legal means, not illegal means. So if you have partners, or if you have investors that want to come, they are free to come, but they should come in legally. We have visa policies that can support business visas, business visitors to come into Nigeria. If you go online on our website, you will see all the requirements, which are not so hard to get, most especially for investors who will come and help us develop our country. Likewise, theirs as well. Work permit processing. The Immigration Service can facilitate the issuance of work permits for foreign experts and technicians who are needed in the mining sector. This will ensure that the necessary skills are available to support mining operations. Just like I said earlier on, if your partners, miners from all over the country, from different countries want to come in, they can come in on the right visa process, on the right document, which is called the work permit process. Not saying that you're coming in as a visitor, and visiting visas are usually between 2 weeks to 4 weeks. But if you come in as a work permit, we'll process your work permit. You can stay here for the period that you are coming, and there will be some Nigerians understudying you. You will transfer knowledge to them before you leave, so that when you leave, these Nigerians can pick up whatever trade or whatever skills you have given them, which will support our mining industry in Nigeria and make Nigeria a better place and make us grow as well. Cyber security. We are still talking about steps to curbing terrorism, as I've said. So cyber security, investing in cyber security measures to protect critical infrastructure, communication networks, and sensitive information from cyber attacks and online radicalization. Yes, we all know the world has gone global now. The world has gone everybody is on the internet, and we thank God for the internet. That is why I'm able to speak to so many of you who I don't know, some don't even know me because of the internet. So the internet has its advantage and disadvantage. So if we can have more security features on the cyberspace, you know, it's a way to also curb terrorism, curb banditry, curb border mismanagement and all that. Because you will see people who come online and they will invite you to so many businesses which are illegal. Some foreigners can come and invite some Nigerians. Oh, I have a business proposal. I'm into mining. I sell gold. I sell these treasures. Do you people have gold in your country? I would want to buy. And some uninformed Nigerians might be catfished into this and give those people vital information that are supposed to be Nigerian information alone, you know, without thorough checks on these foreigners. And that way, you know, they have already attacked us through the cyberspace. Number 7, community engagement. Engaging local communities and promoting trust building initiatives can help in identifying early signs of radicalization, fostering resilience, and countering extremist narratives. So, like on the mining sites, those places, let's take for example, the CGIs mentioned the other time when the women in mining came to visit her and congratulate her on her appointment as CGIs. She mentioned to them that she knows very well in Ile-Ife there is a mining site, and there was a point in time, I think there was something wrong at a point in time there in Ile-Ife, where the miners came and they were mining. There was pollution all over the city. The air was polluted, the water was polluted. So you know, the community were not carried along basically, and then they were not informed that, okay, foreigners are coming, this is what they are coming to do, and this is the effect. Because if they were informed, if the community was carried along, there would have been some measures to protect these people from the pollution they got, which was now a negative on that community. So by the time we are mining, by the time we invite expatriates to come and mine in our communities, we can engage the community as well, introduce these foreigners to the chief heads of the communities. Okay, these people have come. And in such instances, there will be peace. There will even be a I know you interface. Okay, this man is here, he's here for so time, he's from China, he has come to mine gold, whatever it is. They accord him necessary collaboration, we know him, you know. So if the people in the community are carried along, or okay, let's attach some numbers of community people to work with him, let them learn this trade, so that even if he goes, they will be able to do this same kind of mining he's doing. So these are the kinds of community engagement we should try to engage so that we can curb terrorism. Because if by the time these miners come, we know them, So where will the fear be again? We know they are here, we know they will be here for a certain period, we know they are here to work, or we know they are just here to show us, or they are here to teach us. So there will be no fear in working with them, or we will know the duration they will be here to work with us. Number 8, international cooperation, collaborating with other nations through information sharing, joint operations, and capacity building to combat terrorism collectively. Okay, just like the first speaker was speaking, he kept on talking so much about Ghana, and I'm even wondering if he's a Ghanaian. He knows so much about Ghana, their gold mining and all that. So collaborating with Ghanaians who are neighbors, we're just a city border away from them, collaborating, sharing information with them, having joint operations can build our own capacity and also help us to combat terrorism collectively. Okay. On number 9, financial controls. Implementing stringent financial regulations and anti-money laundering measures to disrupt the funding sources of terrorist organizations. Okay, on financial controls, the last time the women in mining were here to visit the Comptroller General, they spoke about how somewhere in Zamfara where the mine was, some people would come, probably in helicopters at odd hours, and offer them money to these miners, our own local miners. And these local miners will sell this gold to them. They will sell everything to them. But meanwhile, we, the nationals, will reach out to them and will price this gold. They will even refuse to sell to us. So these are the things. Is it they offer them more money, or they think we can't afford it, or we offer them less money? So these are some of the issues we should really look into it, you know, and it still borders on our border security. How do this help? Where do these helicopters come from, or how do they get in? Where are they coming from? Are these people Nigerians? Are they not Nigerians? So these are some of the issues. Number 10, public awareness and education. Raising public awareness about the dangers of terrorism, promoting inclusive society, and educating individuals about recognizing and reporting suspicious activity. Yes, on mining issues. I personally never knew that mining was such a big issue in Nigeria, except I'm from the northeast part of Nigeria, except for my state where I know that the mine, I never knew that mining was all over Nigeria. One thing I know, I'm very sure there are many people like me that are not aware about mining, you know. So we need to raise more public awareness about the dangers of terrorism in the mining industry. People have to be more aware, more lectures, more webinars like this, more seminars, reaching out, collaboration. It was a good thing that the women in mining collaborated with Nigerian immigration. The collaboration, I'm very much aware, started since 2022 when my Comptroller General, Acting Comptroller Chief Mrs. Urala Adepoju, was invited for, I think, Girl for Mining, and I represented her because she was unavoidably absent. So from there on, we all looked at it that this is a really good cause, because in the Nigerian immigration, we would like to partner with people who have Nigerian at heart, who want the protection of Nigeria, who want to secure our borders with us, because which is our core mandate, securing and effective securing of Nigerian borders. Okay, rehabilitation and reintegration, developing programs to rehabilitate and reintegrate former terrorists into society, addressing underlying causes of radicalization, and providing support for individuals at risk of recruitment. So after all is said and done, when we have people who have been terrorized by mining terrorism, people who have been on the mining sites and they have undergone one or two issues that are of bad objectives, there's a way we can reintegrate them into the society. Even the terrorists themselves, those that have been suspected, they have been proven guilty, there's a way we can reintegrate them back into the society, make them feel we are all together, welcomed, make them feel that we're all Nigerians. And sometimes we know situations push people into doing things that is not of sound mind. So rehabilitation and integration, we need to develop programs that we can reintegrate these people back into the society. Even terrorists we see on sites that have been tried and found guilty, they too can be able to, we can bring them back into the sites, teach them how to mine, teach them the benefits of mining, teach them that, okay, these are our resources, these are what we can all benefit from. This is, we have so many mineral resources in Nigeria, we don't have to be criminals, we can all live together from these resources, make good. What are those expatriates coming? What do they use these resources for? What do they use these minerals for? We can be able to use these minerals here in Nigeria with us. You know, we can be able to make good use of these minerals. Sometimes, like I said, is lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge, public awareness is what makes people become terrorists in our mining sites. Okay, terrorists come, thieves come, probably the white people, the Chinese come and mine. And when they come to mine, some terrorists can come harass them. If these terrorists, if these people knew what the benefits they can gain from these people, I think it's a two-way thing. We can learn from you, we can allow you mine. If you come in legally with the right papers, we can allow you mine, and you come in and train our people. So these are the issues which I think we should all look into. Legislative framework. Enacting comprehensive legislation that criminalizes terrorism, provides legal mechanisms for prosecution, and facilitates international cooperation in combating terrorism. So as Women in Mining has come to the Nigerian Immigration Service for collaboration, I think we need to set up an SOP, standard operating procedures, a legal framework. How do we work with women in mining to curb terrorism, most especially considering border security? How do other sister agencies such as the Customs, NSCDC, Police, Nigerian Immigration, how do we come together, set up a legislative framework so that we do things according to the law? We do not do things against the law while still taking out our own mandates, while we're still acting out our own act in securing the borders of Nigerian immigration generally. 13, training and capacity building. The Immigration Service can collaborate with mining organizations to provide specialized training and capacity building programs for immigration officers. This will enable them to better understand the unique requirements and challenges of the mining sector. Just like I mentioned earlier, Women in Mining reached out to Nigerian immigration, and we are ready. The CGIS has already given her all in all. She's ready to support women in mining. The CGIS, who is capable, who is a charismatic leader, has already committed herself, most especially when she has heard that it's women that are here to mine. She is passionate about women, she is passionate about service, and she's passionate about delivery. So if we can collaborate, Women in Mining can bring out their own framework, come to us more with more training and capacity building, that we can be able to synergize and see how we will be so much involved in securing our borders so that our mining sites can be safe. Collaborating with other agencies. The Immigration Service can collaborate with other government agencies involved in mining, such as the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, to ensure efficient coordination and exchange of information regarding mining activities and related immigration matters. Yes, already we know the Ministry of Mines and Steels Development, but with Women in Mining now and with us, these three collaboration will be a very good collaboration so that we can ensure efficient collaboration, coordination, and exchange of information against mining sites. The Ministry of Mines and Steel can provide us with, through your office, Women in Mining can provide us with so much intelligence that will be able to secure our borders to protect the mining sites. In summary, by fulfilling these steps, the Nigerian Immigration Service can contribute to the growth and development of the mining sector in Nigeria while ensuring compliance with immigration regulations and protection of national interests. Our core mandate as Nigerian Immigration Service is to strengthen the security and prosperity of Nigeria through proactive, effective, and efficient border security and migration management. So lastly to say, we are ready to collaborate. We are ready to work with women in mining in collaboration with the Ministry of Mines and Steel to secure your mining sites, to secure Nigerian border, to secure Nigerian border security in general. I think with these few points, I would want this to continue as an interactive session. Anybody can ask any questions they want to ask concerning Nigerian Immigration Service facilities we can offer to women in mining, to offer on border security and all. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much for that beautiful presentation, Engineer Gadzama. I'm sure we are all encouraged, to look up to the Immigration Service to protect the borders and ensure that the free flow of criminal elements and arms, illicit arms into the country is curbed by all means necessary. Before we go into the interactive session proper, I would like to call on the President of Women in Mining Nigeria, Engineer Janet Adeyemi, to just speak to these issues for 5 minutes. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I don't know, maybe you are hearing me. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we
can hear
you.
you. We can hear you.
I want to sincerely thank everybody for participating. I saw the founder of Africa Women in Mining, Melody. I saw you joining. Maybe you have a network issue, but I acknowledge you. I saw some of my sisters from other African Women in Mining chapters. I say you are welcome. Likewise, the West African Women in Mining. Professor Bidiako, I saw our former director, our father, our husband, Mr. Ojeka. I saw him join at a point in time. Again, I can't pinpoint you, but I saw you and I saw you show your face. I want to thank Mr. Malami, that's the chairman of SMDF, who did significantly well in SMDF while in office, and acknowledge the speakers for today. That's the two speakers. Boma is a very good friend. Intellectuals, we engage one another in intellectual discussion, and I'm very grateful you took up the challenge to speak to us today. I recognize Omishori. I recognize my sister, Engineer Gadzama, brilliant, always very keen to contribute to gender issues. Today is not necessarily about gender. Today is about what borders Nigeria. Today we are all crying. We are all affected, whether rich or poor. You are in your house, you can't sleep. You understand? So nobody is safe. And we can see the consequences of some of the wastages of yesterday, or bad policies or corruption. So we are just harvesting everything. So I just quickly want to, when the two speakers were making presentations, I was laughing when in my mind, when Boma was citing all manner of things. Women in mining, you understand, has men as members. And the thing is that the only negotiation is that you must continue to agree, because women in mining is in 92 countries across the world. Each chapter modeled according to the culture and situations of that country. In Nigeria, we are aware that mining went to rest in the grave until it's resurrected again, like the former vice president, Oshibajo, used to say. It's resurrected. We abandoned it completely to go for the quick wins. So, but the negotiation when we are starting is that, see, even if you're a man here, because we have been marginalized from several fronts, you will allow us to bear the name Women in Mining. If you agree, no problem. And we have some men who are fantastic in our midst. So having defined that, you will see that we deal with several kinds of issues. When we have, why did we have to visit immigration? It was because of the pain the Chinese inflicted on some women in Osun State. When we went to Osun State for studies, some impregnated, you find children without identity, and you unfortunately know that the Chinese have a peculiar kind of look. So even the children, you understand, were ostracized. A woman was killed for standing up to challenge a Chinese, you understand, for coming to a mine site. So several things that are not recorded that the ministry don't even know about. You understand? So all manner of terrorists, domestic terrorism, external terrorism, all take place in mine sites. And we are all witnesses, even during the COVID thing, when government said mining is not too important, stay at home. Yes, some Chinese went to Zamfara and we are plundering. And when they arrested them, I remember that one of our ministers then said, they went to the police station. You know how our police treat us. Our police are never civilized when treating people. They gave them wonderful chairs to sit down, see they were in their sitting room. You understand? And we never heard anything about that case again. Then I don't want to mention the big man in Plateau so that I too don't run into problems. So like that. So we have all forms of terrorism. So coming together to the table today to discuss. But one thing I know, I don't know, maybe Charlotte is here because I have wanted her to put her own dimension as a consultant, international consultant. Charlotte Ngolo, I don't know, because I think I saw you initially, but I don't know, maybe you are still online. The thing is that we need to examine the root cause. What causes this thing? The foundational problem to terrorism, internal terrorism, must be addressed. And it's the same thing in various countries that allow some people to say, come, I want to fight. I want to defend. I want to, that makes them get to that point of anger, of inflicting pain on fellow human beings. Let's look at the internal one taking place in the East. In the East, the other day, I'm sure the video trended, where they went to the marketplace and they were hitting those things, and they left one lonely child. I think while the mother was trying to flee, left her child behind, and the child was busy crying. Fortunately, the terrorists didn't hit the child, but they destroyed all their things. What led to that level of anger? Most times you find out that it is discrimination, inequality in terms of policies, in terms of everything. See, all our money is now being looted, billions being taken and hidden everywhere, and yet we come with policies that now inflict on the common man. So a graduate who has graduated 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, with a first class cannot get a job, yet somebody with ordinary pass is working in CBN. So these are things we need to equally examine. So we shouldn't shy away from it as policymakers. We should be sincere, you understand, not label every terrorist as bad. Something triggered terrorism, and that thing that triggered terrorism, if it is not addressed, terrorism will never go. And then some of those things, I said the fertile grounds for terrorism, I listed somewhere you were talking, is despair. You understand? I have no hope. I have no source of income. So I'm already on the ground. So I have no fear of falling further. Poverty, hunger, lack of basic services. You get to mining communities. You see how the mining communities are. You find even the women who are being used. In Nasarawa, we did a studies. Even when you cooked your food, your corn, you want to go and sell corn in mine side, a superintendent tells you put the bale of corn by their side. You understand? For them they eat. For them to pay you, at times they want to sleep with the lady. They want to sleep with that lady to pay the lady. You want to go and work, to wash, to do one dirty job or the other for them. Again, you have to bribe them to even engage you for that day. And most time it's sex for what you want, or fondling for what you want. You find young girls of 12, 13 already pregnant, carrying. When you get to Nasarawa local government and you see so many pathetic stories, you pity them. So these are issues that are very pertinent. And that was what led women in mining to immigration's office to say, immigration, come. This policy, I know custom is at the table, but immigration is not well pronounced. And I'm happy Dr. Ojeka, Mr. Ojeka is here. We are going to call him as a former director. A director is a director. At least now you have the freedom to give some perspectives to some things. What can we do to bring everybody to the table? You understand? The legislative framework we are talking is not robust enough. How do we make our legislative framework robust? And then all this isolation of, I am Joseph, I am, always wanting to multiply and divide issues because everybody wants to be a captain in the boat. does not make life good. If we have a common problem, let's identify this common problem, a common front, you understand, to tackle these issues. But, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be that, and we go nowhere with them. So to me, I think these are paramount issues. And then when you look at the region, because we asked one moment to talk about West Africa, because I feel the pains of my sister. I'm trying to, in West Africa, Burkina Faso, between January on our platform, they recorded that between January to February alone, about 150,000 people were displaced. Some were killed because people, you understand, they just kept on, the Burkina Faso, Mali, that axis, they have gold. Those people must fuel their business with one form of resource or the other. And so they plunder, they buy the gold from them. At times, they even take the gold, they mine them. Look at Just now, the mining area in Jos is no go area because the terrorists have taken over. And I can tell you, what do? They are mining. So they create problems, send those people out of the place, kill them, and then they talk about the mine whatever they want to mine, take it to continue to fuel their crisis. So I believe that today is a very sensitive day, understand. And if we even extend beyond the time a little, I think it's worthwhile. I'll call on Mr. Patrick Ojeka, our former director, our father, our brother, to just give us a perspective to this topic before we start taking questions, if the House allows me. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Janet. Thank you to the organizers of this Zoom forum. Though I came on about 20 minutes late, I stumbled on the notification and I click immediately to join. It is quite interesting and quite apt that this forum is being developed and expanded. I am particularly keen with the first presenter who made effort to take Africa, because I understand he was touching Congo DRC, South Africa. We talk of the ECOWAS sub-region and all that. It is quite challenging. But I am very, very excited that most persons who do not know or understand vividly, in depth, the issues surrounding ASM and then terrorism are being well educated today. Yes, I agree that challenges abound, and the presenter was able to make a whole presentation of various issues and trying to decipher from the pros to the cons, looking at both the negative and the positive end of it. But of course, globally, we have the best global practice that is being engendered and introduced to ASM-prone countries and nations is the process of formalization. But all of this strategy, which Nigeria, like the Honorable Janet, the head of Women in Mining Nigeria, has mentioned, excuse me, has mentioned, is very, very quite interesting. We look at the issue from the varied end. And I will tell you that Nigeria is reawakening, but of course, Nigeria seems to be steps ahead of most nations within Africa and sub-region, and most of the global world, because the process is on. But then, like we have said, political will to drive these processes is key. In a situation where the formalization process that is supposed to be continuous, on and off, roll on, roll off, is a one offspring in a year, it does not give us the strength to be able to curtail the excesses of what we are trying to talk about. The influx of terrorism, yes, rightly stated. There is in-house terrorism within Nigeria, in-house terrorism within operators who are envious of the achievement of their partners. And then finally, the big players. Who are these big players who are the funders of terrorism into the mining fields? Like the Honorable Janet has said, terrorism terrorized, put fears, instill fears and the local host mining communities who are participators in the operation. And then they abuse it, digging away, exploiting, and then scaring the surface. We look at issues of invasion of foreigners. The Chinese are a serious threat to this country. A fortnight ago, I was in Cadastra and I saw Chinese loitering about there in large numbers. At what level did we allow this to overwhelm us? This is a serious issue. Maybe the local terrorism may now blow up to international level. Ghana made a series of efforts to curtail the Chinese excesses to the extent of setting ablaze their machineries in the field, and it never worked. We are all aware that the nation of Ghana depends on the exploitation of the natural resources, whereas Nigeria were blinded away by the easy dollar flow, petrodollar that was flowing in. And now the realization that we have no control have brought us to our knees. And then we are trying to make sure we measure up. Well, the saying goes, a journey of a kilometer starts with the first step you move. We will gradually get there, but then getting a perfect mining setup in the climb, like ECOWAS sub-region and Nigeria, is going to be a Herculean task that we must not dwell there much. The government has set up so many structures to be able to curtail and to see how the country benefits from the resources. But even at that, we have over 700 private mineral buying centers set up, certified. And then we have an attitudinal problem too. The attitude of the operators themselves does not help matters, because if government put up effort to want to stabilize the sector, within themselves, within ourselves, we do not help ourselves. Simple declaration of what quantum of material you have to export. The records, keep a record book they never keeps. And then government is spending so much to put up to build capacity in them to understand the importance of keeping records of production and then disposal. They never do. The Mines Inspectorate Department is ever there for the issuance of export permit. But of course, like the first presenter mentioned, I think Africa needs to take a step forward in inculcating a synergy with the end users nations to make sure, just like we have the Kimberlite program that bars you from moving around with diamond without a certificate of origin, if that can be done to make sure that those who smuggle this product and take to those end users are checkmate in that way, I think terrorism financiers and financing will be reduced. But of course, we have the big players. We should not blind ourselves from it. The financiers are there, the terrorism financiers are there, and they will do everything within their powers to continue to cause chaos and a misunderstanding, so that fear and scare, so that they get away with their loot. Yes, mention was made of aircraft flying in and out of the country. Who are the owners of the aircraft? They are not the artisanal small-scale miners. They are not the terrorists, the full soldiers of the terrorists. It is the terrorists themselves. And we have many of them in Nigeria. Even from Abuja, they can cut away a lot who's knowledge of gold out of the country, unchecked. And then they have their end users. I give you a little story. Oh my goodness, my battery is going low. Quickly, I was at a function in Geneva 2 years ago, and the side program of ASM came up, and a young Italian who is a gold refiner got up and bluntly told the world that he does not give any damn how he gets the raw material. And as long as he's concerned, he's only interested in meeting the demands of his client. And I took it up with him. I challenged him. OECD are fighting to stabilize production. And then you are here telling the world that you don't give any damn how you get raw material. In other words, you are the one of the financiers of the terrorism and the blood gold that is coming out from Africa. But as long as people like you exist in the world, we will never get to what the world is fighting for. OECD is spending so much within the horns of Africa. The ECOWAS sub-region is working assiduously hard to make sure that they come out like the first presenter recommended. We already have what we call a model mining law for the ECOWAS sub-region, including the regulation, which was signed by the ministers November in 2022. I am saying this authoritatively because I was fully involved in that process from the beginning to the end. Those instruments need to be domesticated within the ECOWAS sub-region, and then we will see positive end to some of the challenges we are having. Otherwise, Nigeria, as the big brother Africa, the father of ECOWAS, with the porous borders we have, as wide as it is, immigration have little to do to curtail that. Those who have been at those posts, the official posts, know the level of crisscrossing and entrance and exit from the country. And as a result of that, information within this group of persons travel faster than the internet. They are converging in Nigeria in their quantum. Positively or negatively, they are converging in Nigeria. But like the immigration officer said, it needs a synergy of the security operatives, the architecture in this country to curtail it. Ministry of Mines and Steel Development have done extensively, making effort to establish what we call remote sensing monitoring to curtail SSs and to reduce the risk of personnel running into a cul-de-sac of where these terrorists encounter them. But of course, we need the sector, the department, the ministry needs adequate funding. And this once in a spin of time, once in a year project should be reconverted, that they have opportunity of being always in the field. And then we'll have a substantial curtail of the SSs of this group of persons. I will equally want to conclude by thanking all stakeholders. We have mentioned a lot. I thank the effort of the women and men in Nigeria. I thank equally too the effort of all stakeholders in this struggle. The effort of women in mining gradually is growing, and we will know that we're at the point it will get to El Dorado. Within the confine of all of this, I want to wish everybody best of luck. I wish Nigeria and the sub-region best of luck. I will thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, and thank you again.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, sir, Mr.
Thank you so much,
for that beautiful contribution. Mr. Patrick Ojeka is immediate retired director of the Artisanal and Small Scale Mining Department at the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. Before we take comments, there's a comment here in our inbox. It's from Raula Tupiuna. I believe that's the Plateau State Coordinator. And she says, thank you very much for your presentation. Indeed, we in Plateau State are experiencing the activities of terrorism and herdsmen attack in local governments that have rich tin, tantalite, wolframite, and other associated minerals. This has greatly hampered the participation of women on the sites. I believe that is a take home for Mrs. Kadzama, the woman from immigration, our speaker, as well as other policy influencers here, to perhaps talk to our security operatives to do something more about that. And we have a hand here. It's Emilia Ofodile. That's the National Secretary of Women in Mining Nigeria. Please go ahead with your comments or question.
Can you unmute her?
Okay, thank you very much,
can.
our amazing presenters today. And today's really very fantastic. And thank you, Richard. But I would like to ask Mrs. Gazama some questions, because when we go to our interiors and we find I don't want to call them intruders, because the artisanal miners would tell you that because they all move around like nomadic, according to Mr. Ojeka's definition to ASM, one of his definitions of categories of ASM. Well, how do we, because I think the collaboration, like you said, I think it's high time that community leaders would have to be on deck to work with immigration, because these people have this foreigners in their community. Then again, recently, like we heard the Kenyan government saying that why can't we be like EU, where in Africa we can move around within the African countries without having to use visa. Once you are an indigenous, you're an African, you can move around. What then would happen? You know, how do we, are we going to start preparing for things like that, or we're not going to be part of that? And especially with this after project, right? Where we're projecting that to say that trade between Africa should be open, should be encouraged. So if we have so much restrictions within Africans doing business, because I think if there are more, like Mr. Ojeka has hampered on it much about funding, what would you others suggest that can be done, you know, to help? Because in as much as insecurity is so much, like Ms. Piuna said, is so much of an issue. Few years ago, I didn't have to think about asking anybody about what a community is like, what's the security risk going anywhere. I just move in, right? What then happens? What are we going to do? Because I think this is what the immigration have to move in, you know, real huge into about this issue of insecurity. Thank you.
Okay, that question was addressed to Engineer Gadzama. So please, you can go ahead with the response before we take the other question.
Okay, let me respond to Emilia Upodide. She asked, her question was basically on movement among African nations, right? Just like how the Kenyan minister is trying to make a move now. Okay, we among our West African countries, we have what we call ECOWAS passports, economic West African states. So these are for the 15 or 16 West African states. We have an agreement, a treaty agreement of free movement of persons and goods to encourage trade amongst West African states. So amongst these West African states, there are free movement. You can come in, come out and sell and buy. There's free trade amongst these 15 West African states. But among the whole of Africa, probably there will be a policy later on to make it work. But right now, this is what we have. This treaty has been on since, I think, 1975 or so. So that is about that. Although it's a good move that there should be free movement of persons and trade in the whole of Africa, but still, you know, even within us in Africa, there's still tension and there are still issues of insecurity. We have to be quite careful of who comes into Nigeria, who leaves Nigeria. We have to really be careful at our entry and exit points. We all know that Nigeria is the giant of Africa. We have it all. We have oil, we have cash crops, we have food crops, we have everything. So everybody wants to come and tap into Nigeria's wealth. And I think we still have to be very protective of this, our sovereignty, Nigeria as a whole. So I think that is answers your question for now. You also made mention about collaborating with our community leaders as Nigerian Immigration Service. Yes, we have so many control posts, we have so many divisional offices, mainly in border towns and also local government areas. And anytime we reach any border town or we reach any divisional town, we make our presence known. And we expect these community leaders to give us information. That is what we call information sharing. Let us share information. Who has entered your town? You are the owners of the town. who has come in, who is new. You people know the foreigners, you people know the locals in the town. Let us know so that we can help you to safeguard your nation, to safeguard your area, to safeguard your city, to safeguard your town or your village, whatever it is. I hope for the way you are satisfied.
Richard, let me just give a quick addition to what my sister has said. From what conferences I've attended and what I've heard, what I think is equally important for all Africans to do is to avoid all this sectionalization of identities. Let us take advantage of digitalization and have one ID. In America, in Europe, people just say, where is your ID? Your ID can be your driving license if you're an adult, and it's linked to everything, to your bank. It brings out everything. So if we have a single identification system that is connected to everything we are, that ID is your person, is a human being, is a person that defines Emily. That is, it connects you to your bank, to your house, to your family, to anything you do in life. And that thing should always be on you. So nobody will ask you and say, where is you understand? Once you have that, even when you are in an environment, assuming you come from Mali, because we all adopted that digitalization mechanism, you will know this person is a Malian, you understand, working on so site. It's possible he comes in to work if he has his license or if he's working for a company, but let there be documentation. And with the formalization in place, you understand, if there is formalization, if somebody is working, you know the identity of everybody who is working. So even when you come into a community, you understand, with an identity. You are not a nobody. You are a somebody. You are defined by that. The moment we start doing that, I think it will work. And anyway, the after thing you are talking about, is it really working? Is it on paper or is it working? I want to go to Zambia, you understand, some few weeks ago, you understand, with tickets, with every other thing. I was denied. You understand why? Because they believe I don't have, that's why the fact that the country will send you get your visa at arrival, you understand, was that implemented? So, but with that single data, you understand, as long as we have that single data, some say, I know it's becoming 666, the bigger 666, or call it anything, but you need that identification system that can stream everybody into line. And you can, that will define your face, define who you are. So even when you commit any crime, that identification reveals who you are, your source, your origin, what you do, and everything about you. I think that is equally very important. But how do you do that? You do that with money. And Mr. Ojeka says something, money, funding. There's no, I don't know, maybe people who work in immigration and customs have 10 lives. If they don't have 10 lives, then how will they govern the borders? Some border areas are even extremely marshy, that is not accessible to human being. So you need drones. You need to apply digitalization to be able to do things. Sit down in your office and even be monitoring. We all saw, it was posted on Miners Association platform or Rock Post or one of those platforms, where the whole of the oil in Saudi Arabia, you understand, they have a gigantic station, you understand, a digital station where every drop of oil that is taking place or transaction around their oil is being monitored. So anything is possible if we have the political willpower to do the right thing, rather than all this chopping of 470 billion, 1 something billion that people are chopping. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Apparently the ball falls on the table of the Immigration Service, because I mean, if we are also to go by what the previous administration always said, the insecurity in Nigeria is largely caused by migrants from other parts of Africa. And we have another hand raised, that's Patrick Odiego. Patrick Odiego, you can go ahead with your comments or question, please.
Unmute him. He's here to be unmuted. Mm-mm. Is he still online? Patrick, can you go to the next speaker if you can't get him? Richard.
Ambassador Regina Ezuwa then, while Mr. Patrick tries to join us. Ambassador Ezuwa.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I don't know.
Have I been unmuted?
Richard.
Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening, Madam President and the two speakers. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. And my sister, hi, how are you? Thank you for the support in our collaborative proposal. I was very glad to hear that you are actually championing it. Thank you very much. Actually, mine is more of a question, because when I was still in service, I'm aware that we've been trying to have this West African monetary units, both all the countries in West Africa to come together under one common currency. And we've been having a problem with the Francophonian countries because of their ties to the French economy and the French government. Has there been any improvement on this? Because if we cannot have one common currency, it will be difficult for us to have one common identity. So what's the latest on this, please? Just let us know what's happening at that end. Thank you. Madam Mercy, you're the one I'm talking to.
Okay, we'll have Engineer Gadzama respond to that, and then we'll take Mr. Patrick Ojeka.
Hello, Ambassador Zua. Good to see you. Thank you once again for visiting. On behalf of your founder, Engineer Janet Adeyemi, and your congratulatory message to our Acting Comptroller General, Chief Mrs. Wuranla Adipoju. Thank you once again, and she sends her esteemed warm regards as you always, and she's always ever ready to work and participate and collaborate with women in mining. Concerning what you asked, I think we will have to visit the Ministry of Finance, probably, because on monetary issues, I don't think Nigerian immigration has a say. I don't think we're part of the policies when it comes to money, having same currency with other African nations. I don't think, not a fact, but I'm not thinking it's part of one of our policies. So maybe Ministry of Finance, I think so. That's what I can say on that. Although it sounds a good idea if we can have one currency, especially the West African countries, to be able to trade well, to be able to go there, they come here, one currency will stay well for us, I think so. It's a good proposal, and it will be good for us as Nigerians and West Africans as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Ojeka, you can go ahead, and then we'll have Mr. Bomoy give his own perspective as well.
All right, thank you for giving me a second opportunity to come on board. I will start with referencing to the question put by Emily Fodile. She was talking about the issue of immigration stiffness within African countries. But I will say that we should all remember that the AU, looking at that, has established or come up with what we call African Free Trade Zone this thing. That has to be domesticated, and that process is to open up the vista, open up the barriers and the boundaries. But of course, you have to follow proper laid down due process, and then you will get in free and out. When it comes to the African Free Trade Zone issue is not that you just walk in without due process. Once that is clear, you will get in through. Same as the ECOWAS sub-region, there is a process already in the ECOWAS ongoing. So that would, in the near future, hopefully, it will open up the barriers and Africans will begin to move freely too. But of course, the bottom line, like the suggestion came to, the issue of common currency, not only within the ECOWAS sub-region, we need the whole of Africa. I remember one head of state who came up with the idea of a united Africa. Incidentally, he's late, and his idea died with him. But of course, until Africa are free to look at themselves and say, yes, we are one, all of these issues will never see the limelight. Because as a Nigerian, appearing somewhere within Africa itself, you are seen as a threat already, talkless of being allowed to move it. Just like Nigerians were afraid of the influx of China, the other nations feel that if Nigerians are allowed to invade fully, then they will have nothing to do. So those kind of mentality never allow free flow of trade. And that is where we have to look at and see how these things can be exterminated, and then we can move forward. Yes, while in service and even now, I was a proponent of what I call nomadic, domesticated, and then illegal aliens who come in and out. A simple interpretation is that aliens are the nationals of other West African countries, yes. So the host base, resident, ASM or formalized cooperative are the one within the host many communities. Those are the instruments that can be used to easily strengthen the program, the policy and the program of formalization by not allowing the nomadic ones who maraud about and do all the damages and then take off. Those ones are able to be fortified. Deliberately, government to fund their growth and development and strengthen them. They will stand stiff against all the nomadic and the aliens who come in. They do what they do the environmental degradation, pollution, and then disappear into thin air with the materials. So in that way, we'll be able to systematically stem the excesses of the nomadic ones and all of that. So that is the little thing I say I want to put in to enrich others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much for that chip in. I believe we have Patrick Odiego back. Mr. Patrick. Mr. Odiego. Okay, let's take this is Dan Princeville then. Mrs. Dan Princeville, are you still with us?
I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for this enlightening, I should say, position report of what's going on in our country. As we were all talking about this, I go back to the first speaker when he was talking about likely where these sort of things happen, why we have so many terrorists, and where it abounds is where we have weak governments or states that are not able to enforce their rules, which is clearly our Nigerian problem. My mind drifted to the Brexit situation, where the Britain being one of the strongest in the group of that alliance, opted out at the end of the day because of the amount of influx into their country that they honestly couldn't cope with. They were at the losing end. And being that Nigeria is the giant of Africa, and like our second speaker said, has this flurry of minerals and deposits in our country. They have it elsewhere as well, but Nigeria is known. Many things are not even discovered yet. So the conversation for us is a little bit dicey. As much as we would love to have Africa free flow, if you are the one with most of it, like one of the speakers said, then you are the one likely to have people breaking down your borders. And because our laws are not straight or stringent enough in terms of implementation, then we may end up with the short end of the stick. As much as we are strong, as much as we would love to have this happen, the biggest issue would be to do our implementation. The issue also is not just for our Africans, because when you look at it in the broad sense of it, the real problem we're having is the foreigners outside of Africa, like the Italian that we got the example of, that don't care. They don't care about us. So until we start caring about ourselves and putting our laws in place, these other friendly laws to bring people in, it may be very hard to stem. So I guess, in just understanding it further, would we be a Brexit if that happens? And if we've seen that example, then it all goes back to our government to ensure that our laws are thoroughly, we are able to abide with our laws a lot better. The immigration issue, when you talk about getting a Nigerian visa to come to Nigeria, it is known as one of the most difficult to get, because I guess we have a lot to protect. And so I just wanted us to see the bittersweet. Of course, on one side, it is a wonderful thing. On the other side, if you are the one with what most people want to take, then you may end up with the short end of the stick. That's just a comment I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, ma'am, for that perspective, a different angle, right? They need to be cautious and not to throw caution to the wind. I'd like to invite Mr. Bomoy, Mr. Abdul-Majid, into this conversation. He's been quiet for a while. Mr. Abdul-Majid, are you still with us?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Yes, please, would like to have your perspective on some of the issues that have been raised.
Okay. Great. Can everybody hear me? If
yes, we
you
can hear you.
Just okay, significant. Okay. I've patiently listened to all the contributors. Janet has spoken. Madam Janet has spoken. I think Patrick Ojeka also touched on a few issues. We had Raula too also talked, and then we had Miss Dan Princefield talk. But above all, I think we are deviating from the core of this class. The core of this class is talking about terrorism financing, how that, how ASM mining activities link the linkage between ASM and terrorism financing. But I think we have broadened it. So in doing that, I would want to correct a few, or should I bring some issues to the fore? Now, Rowlatt talked about Patrick Ojeka talked about the AFCTA. Now, the AFCTA is a document that has been ratified by almost 50 countries in Africa, and that is about trade. But when we talk about mining in Africa, we will talk about the AU Mining Vision document. That document was ratified by 50 countries in Africa, and I'll encourage every participant in this forum right now to go and look at that document. That is a wonderful document. Our problem is not documentation, our problem is implementation. How do we implement, all the frameworks that we have? We have a fantastic framework, but we're not implementing it at country level. I've had cause to interact with Marikito. Marikito is the AMDC chairperson, and she's doing her bit to ensure that most of, in fact, she just visited Nigeria recently, and ensuring that everything works. Now, the question is, can African economies survive Industry 40? And what is Industry 40? Industry 40 is the fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution presupposes that every economy must go digital. Okay? Now, industries are beginning to use digital technologies in not only the manufacturing process, yeah, but also ensuring that you have higher productivity. So we're talking, we're not even talking about how to, enhance the capacity of our local players to be efficient. So when the Chinese come here and stay in the bush, they're feeding an efficient industry out there because they're going out there to get the products, and they come to our climate where we do not have strong laws, we do not have frameworks to regulate what they do. That is why in my slide, I said, we need regulation, the framework. The OECD has talked about due diligence, and then we're talking about chain of custody. So can we not deviate from what we're talking about? Because without these things put in place, these ingredients put in place, terrorists will always do what? Buy from the ASM. Don't forget that the ASM sector accounts for in excess of 80% of mining output across the world. So the big players right now, they just account for only 20%. But these big players, I call them the cheesecakes. They're the ones that run the affairs of policymakers. They are the ones that even fund terrorism. Madam Gazama was talking the other time that Chinese were caught in Nigeria. Yes, yeah, these Chinese came into Nigeria, okay, and they are doing all kinds of things. And I can tell you every day, I'm in the field all the day, all the time. I see them. In fact, most of my side Chinese, they are declared persona non grata. I made sure on my own level to tell the traditional rulers, never allow any Chinese man to go into our sites. Now, global manufacturing giants right now, all of them, the Teslas of this world, are building gigafactories across the world. Has any gigafactory been built in Africa? No. No gigafactory in Africa. But Africa is the goose that lays the proverbial golden egg. Somebody was talking about farming. There's a popular maxim in mining that says, if you cannot farm it, mine it. Yeah, but do we have the capacity to understand that mining in Nigeria specifically? Yeah, I was talking broadly sub-Saharan Africa, but specifically Nigeria. Do we have the capacity? Yeah, do we have the required human resources? Do we have the geodata to turn our resource to what? To capital. These are the issues that we should be talking about. So we must build systems, and all the systems must be working in sync. The Nigerian Immigration Service, the Nigerian Customs Service, the Mining Cadastre Office, the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency, and all of these agencies must be working in sync to ensure that our mining resource is capital. Without that, we'll be talking about this up till tomorrow. We just had an event, Malamu Basani, I hope he's still in the panel. I'm just looking, yeah, he's still in the panel, and I wish, okay, he's gone. I wish you can admit him to speak a little bit, yeah? We had a round table to talk about geodata and how that can enhance investment in the mining sector. And the Nigerian Mining and Geoscience Society was kicking against the fact that somebody was coming up with another initiative. Instead of collaborating, we're fighting ourselves. These are the problems. We work at cross purposes. So my simple summation is this. Global manufacturing giants are moving to areas where they have strategic leverage. So can our governments be intentional? Yeah, because the outlook is that Africa,
I think we have lost you, Mr. Abdul Majid. Okay, I think we've lost Mr. Abdul Majid there. So thank you very much. I believe we understand the point you're trying to make, and would like to really thank you for that perspective. We don't have any more time, so we won't be able to take any more comments or questions. I'd like to invite Emilia or Fodile to please give a vote of thanks as we wrap up this class.
I'm not properly dressed.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and to all our participants. On behalf of our founder and president, Women in Mining, our very articulate president, who's very visionary about foreseeing issues and bringing it to the fore. So I would like to thank our hosts, our presenters today, Mr. Bomoy and Engineer Gadzama. Thank you so much for that insightful and very detailed presentation you gave to us today. And thank you to all our commenters and everyone who contributed in one way, and our ever amiable director, the former director, Mr. Patrick. Thank you so much for that contribution, and everyone. So please, let's keep tuning in. We keep having amazing topics to talk about. Nigeria is our own. Nigeria will work for all of us. Thank you so much. One love to everyone, and God bless women in mining Nigeria. God bless the mining sector, and God bless Nigeria. Thank you very much.
We'll meet again, same day, next month, third Thursday of the month of August, for another amazing class here at WIMTI. Thank you so much for joining. Have a lovely evening.